Let's go ahead now and create our very first Java project. And we'll go ahead and just use the IntelliJ IDE to do this one. I have a shortcut to IntelliJ on my desktop, so let's go ahead and just double click that guy to start up. So once IntelliJ starts up here, it takes me to this initial window. Now what I'm going to do is just create a new project, so we'll click on that. Now it takes me into the wizard to create the project. Now one of the first things we have to do is, of course, choose we want to have a Java project, because remember IntelliJ works for a variety of things. And then we also have to associate the JDK version we want to use. Now you only have to do this step once. What we do here is that where it says Project SDK, notice that there are none now. There's none to choose. All right, so what we're going to do is just click on this new button here on the right. We're going to choose to set up a Project SDK, which is the JDK. And what we're going to do now is just navigate to where we installed the JDK. Right? So for me, here it's on Program Files. Scroll down, Java. And then make sure you choose JDK, not the JRE. Right? You want the JDK. Say OK. And now that we've done that, we can now create projects with that JDK. So now one thing, just a little bit of a challenge, is that this wizard screen doesn't render well on the resolution that we record at. So I'm just going to pull this it up here just a little bit. Notice that the button's across the bottom, right? So what I'm going to do is click the next button to move on to the next step of the wizard. So I'll click on the next button. So now it says, what template do you want to use, or do you want to use a template at all? We're going to say, yeah, go ahead and create it from a template. And what that does is just create some initial file layouts for us, sets things up so we can kind of get started easily. And we're just going to create a regular command line application, which is just the most basic kind of Java application. Again, if I pull this dialog up, again, we're going to click that next button down there at the bottom. So now we'll go ahead and want to name things. So in the kind of in the lifelong tradition of programming and programming courses, we're going to create a Hello World app. Let's just go ahead and call this project name Hello World. So I've named the project Hello World. I'm going to go ahead here where it says base package. I'm going to go ahead and delete that away for now. We'll come back to that a little bit later. And I'm just specifying where I want it to go. So I'm going to put it into a folder under my demo folder for this module called Hello World. If I pull this guy up, notice down at the bottom now there's actually a finish button. So that's what I'm going to select this time, is the finish button. So as it starts up, it brings me into the project. One of the features of IntelliJ is it actually has kind of the tip of the day, just kind of show you different facts about working in their environment and so forth. I'm going to close that up. You notice here it's generated a source code file for me. And up on the left here, I've got my Project Explorer. It just shows me kind of the hierarchy of the files it's created. If I expand Hello World in this source folder here, there's the main. That's the class file that goes with the class I've created. We're going to talk a whole bunch more about classes later in the course. This is basically just kind of the start of our application. Now IntelliJ always creates this initial class as the class name main. That class name doesn't actually matter. We'll talk a lot more about class names a little bit later. What does matter is inside here there's what's called a method, right? That's where our code actually runs. And for Java applications, the startup of your application must be in a class that has a member called main that looks just like this. So it has to be public, means it's publicly accessible. We'll talk more about that modifier later. The modifier static, void, it has to be called main, and it has to look just like this. So whenever you run your code in Java, it's going to look for this as an entry point. All right, so I'm going to just delete this line away here. And we'll do the classic Hello World application. So I'm going to use an object here, or a type called system. And I'm going to use something called out and print line. All right, and this is just the mechanism in Java we use to print things out to the console. And we're going to say Hello World. So we have that there. So this is kind of the most fundamental application we can build. Right now, the way we run this in IntelliJ is that we go up here to the Run menu, click on that, and we choose Run. When we do that, we'll see that IntelliJ will go ahead and compile our code for us. And then down here at the bottom, it shows a console window and actually shows the output of our application. So in this case, it says Hello World. Now, our focus here is on Java, not on the development environment, but just to show you a couple things that makes it easier. We saw how to run it from the menu. Once we have this window down here, if we say want to change something, like I'll say Hello World, we'll just say again. If I want to go ahead and rerun the code, I can go down here on the bottom where I have this little green arrow, click on that, and it'll just run the code over again. Compile it and run it for us, and now we see Hello World again. So we've successfully run our very first Java Hello World program.